One nuclear device goes off 250 miles above Kansas. No mushroom cloud on the news. No warning siren, just silence. Within a second, the power grid from coast to coast could be fried. That's not a wild guess. That's a real warning that's come out of government threat assessments for years. Now think about how much we actually lean on electricity. Most of the country's critical systems run on it. Hospitals, water treatment plants, food distribution, banks, all of it depends on a grid that could go dark in a heartbeat. This isn't science fiction either. Back in 2012, a massive solar storm barely missed Earth. If it had hit us directly, experts believe the damage could have run into the trillions of dollars. Some estimates say we'd have been in the dark for years, not days. Here's the part that should really scare you. Groups that study this threat have warned that a full year without power could kill the vast majority of Americans. Starvation, disease, violence, that's not a movie plot. That's a real warning from serious people. So let me ask you something blunt. Are you going to sit around and wait for FEMA to show up? Or are you going to take 5 minutes and get ready right now? Because when the lights die, the ATMs freeze, and the delivery trucks stop showing up, the cheap little items sitting in your local Aldi could be the difference between surviving and becoming a statistic. And look, I get it. This sounds dramatic. Maybe even a little over the top if you've never thought about it before. But disasters don't send a warning text before they hit. They just happen. And the people who prepared ahead of time are the ones who make it through in one piece. You don't need a bunker buried in your backyard. You don't need $10,000 in gear stacked in a garage somewhere. You just need a plan, a little bit of cash, and a willingness to walk into a discount store and grab a handful of items most people completely ignore. That's really what this whole list comes down to. Cheap, boring, unglamorous items that quietly become priceless the moment modern convenience disappears overnight. Stick with me here, because by the end of this video, you're going to look at your local Aldi run in a completely different light. I want to be clear about something before we dive in. This isn't about panic. It's about being the calm, prepared person in the room while everyone else scrambles. There's a real difference between fear-based hoarding and simple, thoughtful preparation. One drains your bank account chasing trends. The other quietly builds real security over time. Every single item on this list is something you could realistically pick up during 1 or 2 normal grocery runs, without blowing your budget or raising any eyebrows. That's the beauty of it. Nobody needs to know you're prepping. You're just the person who happened to grab a few extra practical items while doing your regular shopping. Let's break down 19 dirt cheap items you can grab today that could keep you and your family alive tomorrow. 19. Heavy-duty trash bags and tarplets. Start with 2 of the most boring items you'll ever hear mentioned in a survival video. Trash bags and a basic tarp. Aldi sells both for just a few dollars, and they usually end up sitting forgotten in the cleaning aisle or the seasonal outdoor section. Boring doesn't mean useless, though. A heavy-duty trash bag can become an emergency poncho, a makeshift shelter, a water collection device, or a way to keep supplies dry during a storm. Tarps do all of that too, just on a bigger scale. Stretch one between 2 trees and you've got instant shelter from rain, wind, or brutal midday sun. During past disasters, tarps have repeatedly shown up as one of the most requested items at aid distribution centers, right alongside food and clean water. That tells you something. When people lose their homes or their roofs get torn apart, a simple sheet of waterproof material becomes an absolute necessity almost overnight. Trash bags are also incredibly useful for basic sanitation, letting you bag up waste safely when garbage trucks stop running and landfill access becomes limited or non-existent. Keep a roll in your car, your bag, and your basement. They fold down small, weigh almost nothing, and solve more problems than people ever give them credit for. Grab a box of heavy-duty bags and a couple tarps on your next trip. It's maybe $10 total for supplies that could shelter your entire family in a real emergency. Pick up some rope or extra cordage alongside your tarp too, since you'll need something to actually secure it in place against wind, trees, or a makeshift frame. A tarp without a way to rig it up is basically just a big folded sheet of plastic taking up space in a closet somewhere. Practice setting up a basic shelter with your tarp before you actually need it. There's a real learning curve to getting a taut, waterproof pitch that holds up overnight. A loose, sagging tarp collects water and eventually collapses under the weight. So a few practice runs in the backyard could save you a miserable, soggy night later. Trash bags also make surprisingly effective insulation when stuffed with dry leaves or grass and layered between clothing. An old trick that's kept people warm long before modern gear existed. 18. Sewing kit and safety pins. Here's another item that sounds almost too simple to matter. A basic sewing kit, the kind with a few needles, thread, and a handful of buttons. Aldi has occasionally stocked these for just $1 or $2. Tucked away near the travel accessories or seasonal clearance sections most shoppers walk right past. Clothing takes a serious beating during any long-term survival situation. Constant movement, manual labor, and exposure to the elements tear through fabric fast. Without a working washing machine or a store to replace torn clothes, a needle and thread becomes the only way to keep your gear functional and your body protected. Safety pins deserve a special mention here too, since they can hold torn fabric together instantly without any sewing skill required at all. They're also useful for makeshift slings, securing loose gear, or even fashioning a crude fishing hook if you're desperate enough and out of proper options. During long historical periods of hardship, families that could mend and repair their own clothing consistently fared better than those forced to make do with tattered, damaged gear. It's not a skill most people bother learning anymore, but it's one that could genuinely extend the life of every piece of clothing and gear you own. Grab a small kit and toss in some extra thread and a handful of safety pins. It costs almost nothing and takes up practically zero space in your bag. Pick up a few extra needles too, since they're thin, easy to lose, and genuinely painful to be without once you actually need one and can't find it anywhere. A small tin or an old mint container works perfectly to keep everything organized and rattle-free inside your bag instead of loose and scattered. Heavy-duty thread matters more than you'd think here. The thin cotton thread that comes in most basic kits tends to snap easily under real strain. Look for a spool of upholstery or button thread if you can find one, since it holds up far better when repairing boots, jackets, or heavier canvas gear. 17. Duct tape. Let's kick this off with something so common that people barely notice it sitting on the shelf anymore. Duct tape. It sounds almost like a joke to include on a survival list, but ask anyone who's actually lived through a real disaster, and they'll tell you a different story. Aldi has carried rolls of heavy-duty duct tape for just a couple bucks, usually sitting quietly in the hardware or automotive section. This stuff can patch a leaking roof, seal a broken window, repair torn clothing, or hold together a makeshift shelter when nothing else is available. During past hurricanes and floods, duct tape repeatedly showed up on lists of items people wish they'd stocked more of before the storm hit. It's not glamorous, and nobody's making a movie about a roll of tape saving the day. But it quietly solves dozens of small problems that could otherwise become big ones. You can also use it for basic first aid in a pinch, securing a splint, closing a wound temporarily, or even taping down a bandage that keeps slipping. Wrap a length around a water bottle or a flashlight to save space, since a full roll can take up more room than you'd like in a bug-out bag. Grab 2 or 3 rolls now, while they're basically nothing in price. It's the kind of item you'll reach for constantly once the modern world of quick fixes disappears. Store a roll in every bag you own, your car, your backpack, your emergency kit. It's cheap enough that there's really no excuse to only have a single roll somewhere in a drawer. Duct tape also degrades over time if exposed to extreme heat or cold, so check your stashed rolls every year or so and replace any that have gone stiff or lost their stick. Combine it with your tarp and paracord for a surprisingly effective emergency shelter setup that could keep you dry and protected during a sudden storm or unexpected overnight stay outdoors. These items work best as a system, not standalone tools. The more of them you have working together, the more resilient your overall setup actually becomes. 16. Fishing line and hooks. Next up is a tiny, lightweight kit that most people completely overlook until they're staring at an empty pantry. Basic fishing line and hooks. Aldi has occasionally stocked compact fishing kits in their sporting goods or seasonal outdoor sections for just a handful of dollars. Protein becomes a serious problem fast once the grocery store shelves empty out and the freezer stops working. Canned goods only stretch so far. If you live anywhere near a lake, river, pond, or even a decent-sized creek, a small fishing kit could become one of your most reliable food sources. Unlike hunting, fishing doesn't require loud noises, heavy gear, or advanced skill to get results. A hook, a bit of line, and some patience go a long way. You can even set up a simple trot line or a few baited hooks and check them periodically instead of standing there the entire day waiting for a bite. Fishing line itself has plenty of extra uses too, from repairing gear to setting basic snares for small game if you know the technique. It weighs almost nothing and fits into a tiny tin, making it one of the easiest additions to any bug-out bag or home emergency kit. Grab a compact kit now and toss in a few extra hooks and swivels while you're at it. Protein sources become scarce fast, and this is a cheap way to hedge against that. You don't need an expensive rod or reel to make this work either. A simple hand line wound around a small piece of wood or cardboard does the job just fine. People have caught fish this way for thousands of years without any fancy equipment at all. Simplicity is the whole point when modern gear stops being an option. Learn a couple of basic knots ahead of time too, since a poorly tied hook or lure will cost you fish. And every miscatch matters more when food is scarce. A few minutes of practice now with some scrap line at home could save you real frustration later when you're actually depending on a successful catch for dinner. Scout out nearby water sources before you actually need them as well. Knowing exactly where the closest pond or stream sits could save you valuable time and energy during a crisis. 15. Water purification tablets. Let's start with the one thing your body can't go 3 days without. Water. After an EMP, city water systems could stop pumping clean water within hours. Pumps need power. Treatment plants need power. No power means no clean water coming out of your tap. That's where cheap water purification tablets come in. Aldi has carried these in their camping and outdoor sections for just a few dollars a pack. These tiny tablets can turn questionable water from a pond, a stream, or even a rain barrel into something you can drink without getting violently sick. Waterborne illness has historically been one of the biggest killers during long disasters. Dirty water spreads bacteria fast, especially when people are stressed, exhausted, and packed into unsanitary conditions. A pack of purification tablets weighs almost nothing. You can toss a few in your glove box, your bug-out bag, and your kitchen drawer without even noticing the cost. In past disaster zones, clean drinking water has often become more valuable than cash. People have traded food, batteries, and fuel just for a jug of safe water. Without tablets or a filter, you're stuck boiling everything over an open flame, which burns through your fuel supply fast. With them, a stream in the woods becomes a lifeline instead of a gamble. Buy a few packs now while they're sitting there for pocket change, because after the grid goes down, that little tablet could be the thing standing between you and a hospital bed you can't even get to. Pair it with a basic personal water filter if you can find one, since the two together cover almost any water source you might stumble across. A filter handles the visible junk, dirt, sediment, and debris, while the tablets kill off the microscopic stuff you can't see with your own eyes. Most people assume bottled water alone will cover them, but a family of 4 can burn through a case of bottled water in a single day without even trying. That supply runs out fast, and store shelves won't be restocking anytime soon once trucks stop rolling and warehouses go dark. Think about every water source near your home right now. A creek, a pond, a rain gutter, even a swimming pool. All of it becomes usable with the right prep. Without purification tools, that same water becomes a gamble every single time you drink it. That's not a bet worth making when your life is on the line. 14. Paracord. Next up is a tool most people walk right past without a second thought. Paracord. This stuff looks like nothing more than tough rope, but it's one of the most useful items you could ever stash away for cheap. Aldi has stocked paracord bundles in their specialty aisle for next to nothing, usually tucked in with camping gear or seasonal outdoor items. A single roll can be used to build shelter, repair gear, set traps, hang food away from animals, or even help splint an injury in an emergency. Here's what most people don't realize. Paracord isn't just one rope. It's actually made of an outer sheath wrapped around several inner strands. Pull those inner strands out, and you've got fishing line, sewing thread, or emergency stitching material in a pinch. One roll can become a dozen different tools depending on what you need that day. During long-term disasters, cordage has repeatedly shown up as one of those overlooked items people wish they'd stocked more of. It's light, it's cheap, and it barely takes up space. You can wrap it around a water bottle, stuff it in a jacket pocket, or coil it into a bag without noticing the weight. When the modern world goes quiet and you need to rig a shelter or secure supplies fast, a roll of paracord could save you more headaches than almost anything else on this list. Grab a few rolls now. It costs less than a fast food meal and could genuinely save your life later. Think about all the small things that break down during a real crisis. A backpack strap snaps. A tent pole cracks. A bootlace shreds after miles of walking. Every single one of those problems gets solved with a length of paracord and a bit of patience. No hardware store required. It also works as an emergency clothesline, a way to bundle firewood, or a method to secure a tarp over your head during a sudden downpour. Survivalists have long called it one of the most versatile tools you can own. And the price tag makes it an easy decision for anyone on a tight budget. Buy 2 or 3 rolls instead of one. Keep one in your car, one in your bag, and one at home, because you never know exactly where you'll need it most. Practice a few basic knots with it too, since knowing how to tie a proper hitch or a secure loop makes all the difference when you're actually relying on it under pressure. A few YouTube tutorials and a weekend of practice will teach you more than enough to handle most situations you're likely to run into. Color-coded paracord can also help you organize gear at a glance, using different colors for different purposes like shelter building, repairs, or securing food storage. It's a small detail, but small details add up fast when you're trying to move quickly and efficiently during a stressful, chaotic situation. Quick pause. If this kind of prepping info is useful to you, smash that like button, drop a comment below, and hit subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this list. 13. Basic first aid kit. Here's an uncomfortable truth. After an EMP, hospitals could become useless within days. No power means no machines, no refrigeration for medicine, and eventually no staff able to keep showing up. Minor injuries that would normally be a quick fix could turn deadly fast. That's why a basic first aid kit belongs on this list. Aldi has sold compact first aid kits for shockingly cheap prices, often tucked away near the pharmacy or seasonal travel section. These kits usually include bandages, antiseptic wipes, gauze, and basic pain relief, everything you'd need to treat a cut before it turns into an infection. Infections have historically been one of the quiet killers during long disasters. A small wound that gets dirty and untreated can spiral into something life-threatening within a week. Without antibiotics or a working hospital nearby, prevention becomes everything. Cleaning a wound properly the moment it happens could save a limb or a life. During past humanitarian crises, relief workers have consistently said the same thing. Basic first aid knowledge and supplies saved more lives than any high-tech medical equipment. It's not glamorous. Nobody posts pictures of gauze and antiseptic on social media. But when someone in your family gets hurt and the ambulance isn't coming, you'll be glad you have it. Grab a kit or two now, and maybe toss in some extra bandages and pain relievers while you're at it. It's cheap insurance for the moment everything else stops working. Don't stop at just the store-bought kit either. Add a few extra items on your own, like tweezers, safety pins, and a small bottle of antiseptic. Chronic medication is another huge blind spot people forget about. If you or someone in your house relies on daily prescriptions, talk to your doctor about a backup supply. Basic knowledge matters here, just as much as the supplies themselves. Knowing how to clean a wound properly or recognize the early signs of infection can make all the difference. A first aid kit sitting untouched in a closet does nothing. A first aid kit paired with basic know-how could genuinely keep someone in your family alive. It's easy to overlook this stuff because it feels boring compared to radios and lanterns. But injuries happen constantly during chaotic situations, and they happen fast. Add a small booklet on basic first aid procedures to your kit as well. Since panic tends to erase even the simplest knowledge from your mind in the middle of a real emergency, reading through it once now, calmly, could make all the difference when you're the one who has to act fast under real pressure later. Rotate expired medications out of your kit every so often too. Old pain relievers and antiseptics can lose effectiveness over time. So check the dates at least once a year. 12. Non-hybrid seeds. Let's talk about something almost nobody thinks about until it's too late. Food that doesn't come from a can. After an EMP, grocery store shelves could empty out within days, and they might not refill for a very long time. Eventually, your stockpile runs out no matter how much you saved. That's where non-hybrid, open-pollinated seeds come in. Aldi has occasionally stocked seed packets in their seasonal gardening displays for just a couple dollars each. Unlike hybrid seeds you find at most big box stores, these can be saved and replanted year after year without losing their traits. Think about what that actually means. A $5 packet of seeds could theoretically feed your family for years if you know how to plant, tend, and harvest them properly. During long economic collapses throughout history, families who could grow their own food consistently outlasted those who relied entirely on stores and supply chains. Seeds are lightweight, cheap, and store for years if kept cool and dry. A small metal tin of assorted vegetable seeds takes up less space than a phone charger. Without them, you're stuck hoping the supply chain fixes itself. With them, you've got a slow but steady path back to feeding yourself no matter how long the grid stays down. Grab a variety pack now while it's basically pocket change. Tomatoes, beans, squash, and greens are a solid place to start for almost any climate. Learning to garden isn't something you want to figure out for the first time during an actual crisis. Practice now, while the stakes are still low and mistakes don't cost you a meal. Start a small backyard patch this season, just to get a feel for watering schedules, soil quality, and how long different vegetables actually take to mature. Root vegetables like potatoes and carrots tend to be forgiving for beginners and pack a serious calorie punch per square foot of garden space. Beans are another smart choice, since they're easy to grow and also help put nutrients back into your soil for future planting seasons. Store your seed packets in a cool, dry, dark place, and consider tossing in a small silica packet to control moisture over the long haul. A shoebox in a closet works just fine. You don't need anything fancy, just consistency and a bit of foresight. Consider swapping seeds with neighbors or local gardening groups too, since that naturally builds a wider variety in your collection without spending extra money on new packets. A community that shares seeds and gardening knowledge tends to bounce back faster from food shortages than one where everyone hoards their own small stash quietly. 11. Salt. Here's an item so cheap and boring that almost nobody thinks twice about it. Salt. But throughout most of human history, salt wasn't boring at all. It was treated like a form of currency because it could preserve meat without any refrigeration whatsoever. After an EMP kills the power grid, every refrigerator and freezer in the country becomes a useless metal box within a couple days. Meat spoils fast without cooling. Salt changes that equation completely. Properly salted and dried meat can last for months without ever touching electricity, using a method humans relied on for thousands of years before refrigeration existed. Aldi sells massive bags of salt for just a couple dollars, often sitting quietly in the baking aisle where nobody gives it a second look. Stock a few extra bags and you're not just preserving food, you're also gaining a valuable trade item, since salt has historically held real barter value during collapse scenarios. Beyond preservation, salt is essential for basic health too. Sweating heavily from manual labor without replacing lost salt can lead to dangerous dehydration and muscle cramps. It's one of those items that seems too simple to matter, right up until the moment your only fridge is a hole in the ground, and salt is the only thing keeping your food edible. Buy a few extra bags now. It costs almost nothing, and could end up being one of the most valuable things in your entire stockpile. Salt also plays a huge role in basic sanitation. It can be used to clean wounds, gargle for a sore throat, or even help preserve makeshift leather from an animal hide. None of that sounds exciting until the moment you actually need it and realize just how limited your options really are without it. Store it somewhere completely dry, since moisture is the only real enemy salt has. A sealed container or a few layers of plastic bags will keep it good for decades. Unlike almost everything else on this list, salt doesn't expire, doesn't break, and doesn't need batteries. It just sits there quietly waiting to become useful. If you're serious about long-term food storage, salt isn't optional. It's foundational, and it costs less than a candy bar at checkout. Buy more than you think you need, since salt is genuinely one of the cheapest things you can stockpile in bulk without worrying about spoilage or waste. A few large bags stashed in a dry corner of your pantry could last your entire family for years, long past whatever crisis actually prompted you to start prepping. Consider learning basic curing and preservation techniques now, before you actually need them. Salt curing meat is a skill, and like any skill, it takes a bit of practice to get right. There's no shortage of free guides online covering the basics. Read through a few, try it once on a small cut of meat, and get comfortable with the process ahead of time. Quick pause again. If you're finding this helpful, take 2 seconds to like the video. Leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more of these breakdowns. 10. Hand crank radios. Now, let's get into the original 10, starting with a device most people completely overlook. The hand crank radio. Forget your smartphone. Forget the internet. Forget scrolling through news updates the moment the grid goes down, because that entire digital world could vanish in an instant. So what actually survives an EMP? One of the simplest gadgets Aldi rotates through their special buys aisle. A cheap, no-frills, hand crank radio. This thing doesn't need a wall outlet. It doesn't need lithium batteries. It just needs your wrist and a few minutes of effort to keep working. Ask yourself something honest. In a real crisis, what's more dangerous? Running low on food or having zero idea what's actually happening around you? Disaster response groups have repeatedly found that people with working radios tend to locate help and aid stations far faster than those left completely in the dark. Plenty of these radios double up as flashlights and basic phone chargers too. Don't get your hopes up about reviving a fried smartphone, but you'll still pull in AM and FM broadcasts. Aldi regularly drops these radios into their rotating special buys for under $15, which means you could grab 2 or 3 for the price of one branded prepper version. During real blackouts in recent history, small hand crank radios have been traded on the street for food and fuel, simply because they told people where aid was actually available. Without one, you're stuck relying on rumors, which can get dangerous fast when roads are blocked and resources are scarce. With one, you're plugged into whatever's left of organized information. Think about how much of your daily life depends on quick access to information. Weather alerts, evacuation notices, road closures, all of it disappears the second your phone dies for good. A hand crank radio brings a sliver of that back, and in a total blackout, even a sliver of information beats total silence every single time. Keep it somewhere accessible, not buried in a closet under a pile of winter coats. You want to be able to grab it fast without digging around during a stressful moment. Test it every few months too. Crank it, check the light, make sure the dial still picks up local stations clearly before you actually need to depend on it. It's a small, unglamorous device that most people will never think twice about until the moment their phone becomes a useless brick in their pocket. Consider grabbing 2 if the price allows it. One stays at home as your main unit, and a second smaller one rides along in your car or bug-out bag. Redundancy matters here, just like it does with fire starting tools, since a single point of failure can leave you completely cut off at the worst possible time. 9. Manual can opener. Sounds almost silly, right? A can opener? Stay with me here, because this one's more important than it sounds. After an EMP, the food crisis doesn't start the moment shelves go empty. It starts the moment people realize they can't actually open what they've already stockpiled. Most households already have a stash of canned beans, vegetables, and soup shoved into the back of a pantry somewhere. Canned goods make up a massive chunk of the average family's emergency food supply. In theory, you could survive for months on canned beans and tuna alone, as long as you can actually get into the can. But here's the problem. Your electric can opener is just as dead as everything else plugged into the wall. And trying to bash a can open with a rock is a great way to slice your hand wide open. A cheap manual can opener, the kind Aldi sells for just a few bucks, becomes the thin line between eating dinner and staring helplessly at a stockpile you can't touch. During past economic collapses, families have survived for weeks on nothing but canned goods, and working can openers have sometimes been valued more than the food itself in barter markets. An infected wound from an improvised can opening attempt could turn into a serious problem fast, without antibiotics readily available. A simple hand crank can opener doesn't care about power outages, barely wears out, and weighs almost nothing in a bug-out bag. Buy a few, stash them everywhere. Your kitchen, your car, your bag. Because while your neighbor is smashing a can with a hammer, you'll be quietly eating a full meal. Go one step further and actually rotate your canned goods too, not just the openers. Old cans pushed to the back get forgotten, and forgotten cans eventually go bad. A simple system, first in, first out, keeps your pantry fresh and functional without much effort at all. Manual can openers are also incredibly light, which means there's zero excuse not to have one clipped onto every single bag you own. Some people even keep a tiny one on their keychain, just in case they end up somewhere without their main supplies during an emergency. It's the kind of item you'll forget exists until the exact moment you desperately need it. Don't let that moment be the first time you go looking for one. Practice using one now, even if it feels silly. Muscle memory matters, and fumbling with an unfamiliar tool during a stressful moment wastes precious time and energy. It takes less than a minute to learn, but that minute could genuinely matter if you're hungry, exhausted, and running low on patience. Consider grabbing a heavy-duty version too, not just the flimsiest one you can find. A sturdier build handles thicker cans and tougher metal without bending or breaking on you. The cheapest option isn't always the smartest option, even when everything on this list is already affordable to begin with. Quick reminder, if you're still with me, tap that like button, drop a quick comment, and subscribe so this list keeps showing up in your feed. Wool blankets when the grid fails, heating fails right along with it. Your thermostat, your space heater, your electric blanket, all of it turns into dead weight. Hypothermia doesn't care that you're sitting inside a modern house. It can absolutely kill you indoors, especially in northern regions where winter temperatures drop well below freezing. That's exactly where an old-fashioned wool blanket steps in to save the day. Aldi has sold seasonal wool blend throws for years, usually priced under $20. Most shoppers see them as cozy home decor. In reality, they're a legitimate survival tool hiding in plain sight. Wool holds onto a huge amount of its insulating power even when it gets wet, which is something cotton simply cannot do. That means if you're stuck in a damp, freezing house with no fire going, a wool blanket could genuinely be the thing keeping you alive through the night. During past humanitarian crises, aid groups have found that wool blankets significantly reduced cold-related illness compared to cheaper synthetic alternatives handed out to survivors. Wool also resists catching fire easily, which matters a lot when people start burning anything flammable just to stay warm. In past wartime sieges, wool blankets have literally been used as currency, with families trading them for weeks of food because they prevented frostbite in unheated apartments. They're lightweight, packable, and durable. No circuitry, no batteries, nothing that can fail on you when you need it most. Grab a couple while they're still just sitting there, looking like holiday decorations. Because once the grid goes down, warmth stops being comfort and starts being pure survival. Layering matters just as much as the blanket itself. A wool blanket over dry clothing traps far more heat than one thrown over damp. Sweaty layers. Keep a spare set of dry clothes stored alongside your blankets so you're never forced to sleep in the same wet gear you worked in all day. Wool blankets also double as makeshift ponchos, ground cover, or even simple bags for hauling supplies if you cut and fold them the right way. That kind of flexibility is exactly why old-school gear like this keeps showing up again and again throughout history whenever modern systems break down. Don't wait for the first freezing night to realize your closet is full of thin cotton throws that won't do much of anything for you. 7. Manual coffee percolators. Here's a truth almost nobody wants to admit out loud. Caffeine withdrawal could cause more chaos in the first week than actual hunger does. A massive chunk of adults drink coffee daily, and plenty of them drink several cups without thinking twice about it. That's not really a habit at that point. That's a dependency. When your Keurig becomes a useless plastic brick and your drip machine goes dark, millions of jittery, headache-ridden people are going to start losing their patience fast. Enter the manual coffee percolator, a cheap little gem Aldi often stocks in their camping section or seasonal specials for around $15. These things run on nothing but ground coffee, water, and literally any heat source you can find: a wood fire, a propane stove, even scrap lumber burning in a barrel. People have used percolators like this since long before electricity was common, and they're built to survive almost anything. During past economic collapses, improvised percolators made from scrap metal became prized possessions because they gave people a small taste of normal life in the middle of chaos. A hot cup of coffee isn't only about the caffeine hit either. It's about morale, and morale matters more than people realize when everything else has fallen apart. Being sharp and alert matters even more when you're chopping wood, standing guard, or cooking over an open flame in the dark without modern conveniences to lean on. The person who can still brew coffee while everyone else is curled up nursing a caffeine headache quickly becomes the center of whatever community is left. Stock up on 1 or 2 percolators now. Because when the power dies, the smell of fresh coffee won't just be a comfort. It'll be a form of quiet power. Don't forget the beans and grounds while you're at it. Whole beans stay fresh far longer than pre-ground coffee, especially if stored in an airtight container. A manual hand grinder paired with your percolator gives you complete control over your morning routine no matter what's happening outside your front door. Coffee also has trade value that shouldn't be underestimated. In tight communities during past crises, small comforts like coffee, tea, and sugar often moved hands faster than practical tools. That's simply human nature. People crave a small taste of normal life, even when everything around them has fallen apart completely. Stock a bit extra beyond your own needs. It costs very little now, and could buy serious goodwill with neighbors later on. Quick break. If this list is opening your eyes a bit, hit like, leave a comment, and subscribe before we keep going. 6. Oil lanterns' flashlights eventually die. Batteries corrode. Solar panels crack over time. But an oil lantern? That thing just keeps on burning. Long before the electric grid existed, entire towns ran on kerosene light every single night. After an EMP wipes out modern lighting, you'll understand why oil lanterns never fully disappeared. Aldi regularly sells hurricane-style lanterns for under $10, usually tucked into their camping or seasonal clearance sections without much fanfare. Pair one with a gallon of lamp oil, and you've got a light source that's cheap, storable for years, and capable of running for 100 hours or more per fill. That's not just about seeing in the dark either. That's about basic safety. Nighttime injuries tend to spike significantly during blackouts, largely because people are stumbling around with candles or open fires. Lanterns sit more stably than candles, they're harder to knock over, and their light spreads evenly across an entire room instead of flickering in one spot. There's a psychological benefit too. Real flame tends to feel more comforting than a harsh LED light ever could, especially during a stressful, uncertain night. During past disaster zones, oil lanterns became so valuable that aid groups started distributing them right alongside food and clean water. Think about the barter value here too. While your neighbor is fumbling around with dead batteries, you're the one holding a working light source everyone suddenly wants. Oil lanterns don't care about EMPs, storms, or power surges. Even if you never end up using one, that gallon of lamp oil could become literal trade gold when the shelves are empty. We've gotten so used to smart bulbs and voice-controlled lamps that people forget light itself is a form of survival. Don't be the one sitting in total darkness while your neighbor reads calmly by steady lantern light, safe, warm, and several steps ahead of everyone else scrambling around him. Store extra wicks alongside your lantern too, since a worn-out wick can dim your flame and waste oil far faster than it should. Wicks are cheap and small, so tossing a handful into your storage box costs you almost nothing and saves you a headache down the road. Keep your lantern somewhere stable and away from anything flammable, and always crack a window slightly when burning one indoors for extended periods. Basic ventilation matters more than people realize, since burning fuel indoors without airflow can quietly become dangerous over several hours. A lantern isn't just about light either. The gentle heat it gives off can take the worst chill out of a small room during a cold night. Buy more lamp oil than you think you'll need. It's cheap, it stores for years without degrading much, and running out at the wrong moment defeats the entire purpose of owning a lantern. A gallon jug tucked in a closet corner barely takes up space. Yet it could mean the difference between weeks of usable light and total darkness once your first fill runs dry. Consider grabbing an extra lantern or two beyond your first one as well. Having a backup light source in every major room of your house isn't overkill, it's just smart planning. One lantern for the kitchen, one for a bedroom, and one for a common area covers your bases without costing much more than a single fast food order. 5. Cast iron Dutch ovens. If there's one kitchen tool that basically laughs in the face of an EMP, it's the cast iron Dutch oven. Forget your sleek stainless steel pots or that pricey non-stick pan that scratches if you so much as look at it wrong. In a world without electricity, a Dutch oven becomes a survival tank sitting quietly in your cabinet. Thick walls, a heavy lid, and the ability to hold heat for hours without any power at all. Aldi has stocked these seasonally for under $30 in the past, which is honestly a steal considering what you're actually buying, a tool that could last multiple decades. Here's the part people don't expect. A cast iron Dutch oven can bake bread directly in the coals of a fire, slow-cook stews over scrap lumber, or boil water for sterilization. Historically, families with durable cast iron cookware have spent far less replacing gear compared to those relying on flimsy enamel or aluminum pots that warp and crack under stress. There's also a survival twist most people never consider. That heavy lid doubles easily as a frying pan, and the pot itself is heavy enough to double as a blunt tool if things get ugly. During long economic collapses, households with cast iron gear were still baking bread and simmering beans months into the crisis, while others were stuck with warped disposable pans. Cast iron is essentially EMP-proof by design. No wires, no fragile coatings, nothing electronic to fail on you when it matters most. Season it once, and it becomes naturally non-stick, resistant to rust with basic care, and capable of cooking pretty much anything edible you can throw into it. Grab one at Aldi now, because once the lights go out, the family with a Dutch oven isn't just surviving. They're actually eating well while everyone else struggles. Take a weekend now to actually practice cooking with it over an open flame or a backyard fire pit. It's a completely different skill compared to using a modern stove. Learning how to manage coals and heat placement takes a bit of trial and error, and you don't want your first attempt to happen during an actual emergency. A Dutch oven also holds heat long after the fire dies down, which means food can stay warm for hours without any extra fuel being used. That efficiency matters a lot when every scrap of firewood or fuel becomes something you have to carefully ration and plan around. Buy the extra care instructions if you can find them, since proper seasoning and storage will keep your cast iron performing well for generations, not just years. Another quick pause. If you're getting value out of this, like the video, comment your favorite item so far, and subscribe for the rest. 4. Manual grain mills. Here's a brutal truth most people never think about. Grocery store bread could disappear within 2 days of an EMP hitting. Commercial bakeries depend on massive electric mixers, refrigeration, and constant flour shipments arriving on schedule. Once the trucks stop rolling, the bread aisle doesn't just empty out, it completely vanishes. That's exactly where a manual grain mill comes in handy. Aldi has occasionally stocked these in their specialty kitchen section for well under $25. They look old-fashioned and a little clunky, sure, but in a grid-down world, they become genuinely priceless tools sitting quietly in your pantry. With a manual mill, you can grind raw wheat, corn, oats, or rice into usable flour using nothing but your own 2 hands and a bit of effort. Why does that even matter? Because whole grains can store safely for 20+ years if kept dry, while pre-ground flour spoils much faster once its natural oils start breaking down. Long-term preparedness guides have consistently pointed to whole grains as the true backbone of food security, and a mill is the only way to actually unlock that potential. During past wartime sieges, improvised grain mills built from salvaged bike parts allowed desperate families to keep making bread long after store-bought flour had completely vanished. Without a mill, you're stuck chewing on raw, mostly indigestible grains that barely provide any real nutrition. With one, you can keep producing bread, tortillas, and porridge basically indefinitely. Bread is genuine survival fuel. It's dense in calories, filling, and surprisingly good for morale when everything else around you feels like it's falling apart. In a barter economy, flour quickly becomes its own form of currency, and whoever can actually grind it holds real leverage over everyone else nearby. All these grain mills might look like quirky kitchen curiosities on the shelf, but in an EMP world, they're the difference between staring at a bucket of wheat and eating warm bread from the fire. Buy bulk grain now, while it's still cheap and widely available at any regular grocery store. Wheat berries, dried corn, and oats all store well if kept sealed and dry. Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers are a smart upgrade if you want your grain supply to last as long as humanly possible without spoiling. Practice grinding a small batch now, just to get a feel for how much effort it actually takes and how fine or coarse you prefer your flour. It's genuinely more physical work than people expect, so building a bit of arm strength now beats discovering that fact for the first time during a real crisis. Combine your grain mill with your Dutch oven, and you've basically built yourself a complete bakery that doesn't need a single watt of electricity to function. Look for a mill with adjustable grind settings if possible, since coarse flour works better for some recipes, while a finer grind suits others like flatbread or tortillas. A little bit of trial and error here goes a long way toward figuring out what texture works best for your family's taste and cooking style. 3. Mason jars and canning lids. Let's talk about food preservation, because here's the blunt reality. In an EMP scenario, refrigeration is completely dead within days. That freezer full of meat you were counting on? Spoiled fast. That fridge full of leftovers? Rotting before the week is even over. That's exactly why mason jars and canning lids deserve serious respect. Aldi often sells them dirt cheap during their seasonal canning runs, especially in late summer and early fall. A single box of jars can turn a slowly collapsing pantry into a genuine fortress of stored calories that doesn't depend on electricity at all. Home canning lets you take fresh produce, meat, or garden harvests and lock them into shelf-stable meals that can realistically last for years at a time. Properly canned goods can remain safe to eat for a long stretch, sometimes stretching out even longer than most people expect if stored correctly. During past wartime rationing periods, home canning and backyard gardens produced a huge share of the country's vegetables, feeding millions of families even under strict supply limits. And here's the kicker most people miss. Canning isn't just about storage. It's also about trade value when times get tough. During past economic collapses, preserved food sealed in jars has become a legitimate form of barter currency, with a single jar sometimes trading for a full day's wages. Mason jars themselves are essentially EMP-proof, made of glass and metal that can outlast decades of use without ever failing on you. Add a pressure canner into the mix, and you can preserve meats, soups, and full meals ready to eat cold or warmed up over a fire. Aldi's seasonal jars often run under $10 for a 12-pack, which feels almost comical compared to their real value once grocery stores are picked clean. Without them, food spoils fast and your options shrink by the day. With them, you're the one controlling the clock on your own food supply. Stock up now, because once the EMP hits, mason jars stop being simple containers. They become genuine life insurance sitting quietly on your shelf. Learn proper canning technique now, because doing it wrong can actually make you seriously sick instead of keeping you fed and safe. Look into water bath canning for high-acid foods like fruit and pickles, and pressure canning for low-acid foods like meat and most vegetables. Label every jar with the date it was sealed, and rotate your stock so older jars always get used before newer ones sitting behind them. A disorganized pantry wastes food fast, and wasted food is something nobody can afford once grocery store shelves stop refilling on schedule. Extra lids are worth stocking heavily too, since jars can be reused indefinitely, but the metal lids typically need replacing after each use for a proper seal. Buy more lids than jars. Honestly, jars almost never break if handled with basic care, but lids are the one part of this whole system that actually gets used up over time. A 100-pack of lids costs very little and could keep your canning operation running smoothly for years without ever needing to hunt one down mid-crisis. Practice canning something simple this season, even if it's just a batch of pickles or jam. Getting comfortable with the process now beats learning it cold during an actual emergency. Once you get the hang of it, canning becomes almost meditative, and it's a genuinely useful skill that pays off whether or not the grid ever actually goes down. One more quick pause before the final stretch. Like the video, drop a comment, and subscribe if you want more lists like this. 2. Bic lighters and matches. Here's a hard truth about human survival. People can go roughly 3 weeks without food, and about 3 days without water, but only a few hours in freezing conditions without heat. Fire is the original survival tool. and after an EMP. It instantly becomes one of the most valuable things you could possibly own. Forget your fancy plasma lighters or anything with a rechargeable battery inside. Those are toast the moment the grid goes down. So what actually survives? Dirt cheap Bic lighters and strike anywhere matches. Aldi regularly stocks lighters right at the checkout aisle for just a couple dollars. And boxes of matches for basically pennies on the dollar. A single Bic lighter can produce thousands of individual flames before it finally runs dry. Matches, when kept dry and stored properly, can realistically last for decades sitting untouched. Fire means warmth, cooking ability, water sterilization, and even a way to signal for help if you're ever truly stranded somewhere remote. Maintaining a steady, reliable fire has historically been shown to dramatically cut down on cold-related deaths across countless disaster zones throughout history. During past sieges and blackouts, survivors have literally traded cigarettes and lighters for food, because fire was worth more to them than actual currency at the time. Without a reliable flame, you're reduced to caveman-level tactics, bow drills and flint strikes that take real skill most people simply don't have anymore. With flame readily available, you control your entire environment instead of being controlled by it. And that shift matters more than people realize until they're living it. The smartest prepper never buys just one lighter either. They buy dozens, scattering them across bags, cars, coat pockets, and hidden stashes throughout their home. Fire is universal barter. A single working lighter could realistically buy you a hot meal, a safe place to sleep, or a trustworthy trade partner when it matters most. You don't just want a couple spares tucked away somewhere. You want a full arsenal ready to go. Because when the EMP kills every gadget and every illusion of modern convenience, the person who can strike a flame at will owns the night. Store your matches somewhere completely waterproof, since a soggy matchbook is just as useless as no matches at all when you actually need them. A simple plastic bag or a small waterproof container solves that problem instantly and costs next to nothing to set up properly. Learn a couple of backup fire starting methods too, just in case every lighter and match you own somehow gets lost, wet, or used up. Flint and steel, a magnifying glass, or even a basic fire starter rod are worth practicing with at least once before you actually need them. Redundancy is the whole point here. Never rely on a single method for something as critical as fire, because backups are what keep you alive when Plan A fails. One printed survival guides here's the ultimate EMP-proof item on this entire list. And it's not flashy at all. Printed knowledge. Forget your Kindle, your downloaded PDFs, or your saved YouTube tutorials, because all of that vanishes the instant the internet goes dark for good. After a serious EMP event, the entire internet becomes nothing more than a distant memory, and you're left relying entirely on whatever you actually know or have written down. That's exactly why printed survival manuals, old-school ink-on-paper guides, deserve to be treated like the crown jewel of cheap prepping. Aldi has occasionally stocked pocket-sized survival books in their seasonal sections for as little as $5. But honestly, even your local thrift store is a hidden goldmine here. Classic military-style survival manuals cover everything from water purification and basic field medicine to trap building and identifying edible wild plants. Preparedness experts have long argued that knowledge retention matters just as much as food or water, because without it, even a well-stocked pantry gets misused or wasted completely. History backs this up too. During past long sieges, families holding on to printed guides about food preservation consistently outlasted those left, improvising blindly with no reference at all. In more recent economic collapses, photocopied instructions on basic soap making and herbal remedies have circulated like contraband, sometimes worth more than actual money in certain regions. Even a simple gardening book matched to your local climate could end up being the difference between real famine and steady food security for your household. Unlike anything digital, paper simply doesn't break down the same way. Store your manuals in waterproof bags, scatter copies between your home and your bug-out bag, and cover the basics. First aid, food preservation, basic navigation, and local wild edibles should all be covered somewhere in your printed collection before things ever go sideways. In a world where search engines are dead and doctors are unreachable, The person holding written knowledge quickly becomes the doctor, the farmer, and the teacher for everyone around them. When the EMP finally hits, the smartest survivor in the room isn't the one carrying the biggest gun. It's the one who took the time to read the most pages. Don't just buy the books and shove them in a drawer either. Actually read through them now, while you have the luxury of time and a calm mind. Highlight the sections most relevant to your region, your climate, and your family's specific needs, since generic advice only goes so far. Consider printing out a few extra guides of your own too, covering basic knot tying, local plant identification, and simple home repair techniques. The internet has an endless supply of free information right now that could vanish overnight. Print what matters most, before that window closes for good. Knowledge weighs nothing, takes up almost no space, and never runs out of batteries. It might be the single most underrated survival tool on this entire list. Share what you learn with the rest of your household too. One person holding all the knowledge is a single point of failure if something happens to them. Turn it into a casual family activity. Read a chapter together, practice a skill on a weekend, and slowly build a shared base of knowledge everyone can rely on. Consider putting together a small binder of your own notes too, combining tips from multiple books into one condensed, easy-to-reference guide specific to your situation. That kind of personalized resource could end up being more valuable than any single manual, since it's tailored exactly to your family, your region, and your specific needs. Bonus, a quick note on bleach before we wrap up. One more cheap item deserves a quick mention. Plain, unscented household bleach. Aldi sells large jugs of it for just a couple dollars, and most people already have some sitting under their kitchen sink without thinking twice about it. A few drops of plain bleach can disinfect drinking water when you don't have purification tablets on hand. It also works for cleaning wounds and sanitizing surfaces. Just make sure it's the plain, unscented variety, since scented versions and ones with added cleaners can contain chemicals you really don't want anywhere near your drinking water. Store it in a cool, dark spot, since bleach actually loses potency over time and degrades faster when exposed to heat or direct sunlight. Rotate your supply every year or so if you're keeping it strictly for emergency use, just to make sure it's still effective when you actually need it. It's not glamorous, and it's definitely not something you'll see in a flashy prepper unboxing video. But it's cheap, it's simple, and it genuinely saves lives. Keep the ratio in mind too. A small amount goes a long way, and using too much can actually make water unsafe rather than helping the situation. Write the proper dilution ratio directly on the jug with a permanent marker, so you're not left guessing or searching through old notes during a stressful moment. Bleach can also help with basic laundry sanitation once your washing machine stops working and you're left scrubbing clothes by hand in a bucket outside. It's one of those items that quietly touches almost every part of daily survival, from drinking water to wound care to basic hygiene around the house. Final thoughts, so there you have it. 15 genuinely cheap items sitting on Aldi shelves right now that could seriously change your odds if the grid ever goes down. None of these items are expensive. None of them require special training. Most of them together would barely cost you the price of a nice dinner out. That's really the whole point here. You don't need a bunker or $10,000 in gear to give your family a fighting chance. You just need to think ahead a little bit. Grab a few of these items on your next shopping trip, stash them somewhere safe, and stop putting it off until it's too late to matter. Think about it this way. Most people spend more on coffee runs in a single month than it would cost to build out this entire list from scratch. The difference is what that money actually buys you. One gets you a temporary pick-me-up. The other could genuinely keep your family alive during the worst week of your life. Start small if the whole list feels overwhelming right now. Pick 3 or 4 items that make the most sense for your situation and grab those on your next shopping trip. Add a few more each time you go back, and within a month or two, you'll have built a legitimate emergency stockpile without ever feeling the financial hit all at once. Don't forget to actually organize what you buy either. A pile of random supplies shoved into a closet does you no good if you can't find anything during an actual emergency. Use clear bins, label everything clearly, and keep a written inventory list taped to the inside of your storage closet so you always know exactly what you have on hand. Talk to your family about this too. Preparedness only works if everyone in your household knows where supplies are kept and how to actually use them when the moment arrives. Run a basic drill once or twice a year. Practice lighting the lanterns, cranking the radio, and opening a can with the manual opener, so nobody's fumbling around during a real crisis. None of this requires you to become a hardcore doomsday prepper living off the grid in the mountains somewhere. It just requires a little bit of planning and a willingness to act on it. The people who make it through the toughest situations aren't always the strongest or the smartest. Often, they're simply the ones who took a few small steps ahead of time. That's really the takeaway here. Preparation isn't about fear. It's about calm, quiet confidence that comes from knowing you've already handled the basics before disaster ever shows up at your door. If you made it this far, you clearly care about being ready. So do me a favor. Like this video, drop a comment telling me which item surprised you the most, and subscribe for more lists like this one. Stay ready, stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next one.